As someone who meal preps quite a bit, I wanted to give the Lego brick meal prep a chance. I also already kind of wrote a menu of what we're gonna be having today for this video. Keep in mind, these are only suggestions, but admittedly, I'm doing this for two reasons. One, I love these flavors, and two, I'm actually testing some recipes for Cooking with Chaos's Rice Bowl expansion pack. So I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone, and hopefully you get a bunch of value out of it. Cooking with Chaos is my infinite recipe card system, and I'm gonna leave a link for this right above all of the recipes in the description for this video. Now, the first brick I want to make is actually a Japanese style curry, mostly because I do make this once or twice a month, and what I will normally do is make a bunch of it and just put it in the fridge, but I don't normally freeze it. The reason for that is because I typically will go through all of the food within about 5 or 6 days, which is your average lifespan for meal prep most of the time if you're not freezing it. That's not to say that freezing food isn't a great option. It's just that I do have time on Mondays to meal prep. So instead of freezing anything and loading up my freezer, I tend to just remake food on Mondays. But I can see this as absolutely being something I can make maybe once a month now and just make a bigger batch of it and freeze it. So I'm curious to see how this one holds up in the freezer as a Lego brick. Now, I know this also looks like a lot of onion, but I need onion for 3 recipes, and I tried to group up my meal prep recipes so there are overlapping ingredients. This way I'm not prepping a ton of individual ingredients, and I am able to overlap everything if I can. Now, I do need some sliced onions for both this curry and the gyudon that I'm gonna be making later, but then I'm gonna need some diced onions for one of the rice recipes. So this way I'm kind of also killing two birds with one stone in this case. Take all my sliced onions and just throw this into a bowl. So this way I keep them separate, because I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make most of it in a single day, which now that I'm thinking about isn't really, I guess I could make everything, cool it down and freeze them individually, because these things do have to freeze overnight. And I only bought 2 of those silicone things, so we'll see how far we can get with this, and we might have to freeze the next day, which seems kind of counterintuitive. We'll figure that out later. Hi, Gandalf. Are you not interested in the onions? Now, for this 1.5 onion, I'm just gonna give it a nice small dice. This way it'll incorporate into the rice really well. Now, my onions are completely done, so we can kind of move on to making the actual curry, which is gonna be the first recipe for today. The other 2 veg I'm using for this Japanese curry are some carrots and some potato. These are very sad potatoes, so that's also why I'm using them. If you don't wanna make your own curry, you can absolutely use a pre-made curry, like golden curry, which is something that I use from time to time, and I absolutely love it. I actually always keep a box in my pantry just in case I want curry and don't wanna go through the effort. Gandalf, where are you going? Why are you? You know what? I can't control you. Do what you want.
Up there. No, no.
You have no power here. And you guys ask me why there's a clamp on that cabinet. It's because that's where his treats are. If I didn't have the clamp up there, we'd be having a lot of problems. Once the carrots are peeled, I'm just gonna do these into I forget the name of this cut, but we're gonna cut them back and forth. I can't believe I've forgotten some of this terminology from culinary school. But realistically, we didn't use this style of cut in the industry very often. Japanese curry does also tend to be a little sweeter than most like Indian curries or Thai curries. But if you don't like the sweetness, what I would recommend is not adding in like an apple or a pear to it. In my case, I don't like them to be too sweet. So I'm actually only getting the sweetness from whatever sweetness is found in the carrots. And I feel like that's a perfect amount for me. But if you want to change it up, please feel free to do that too. I'm using some russet or Idaho potatoes for this as well, just because I had them laying around, but feel free to mostly use whatever potatoes you want. Gandalf, do you need help? Because I would rather have you, your hips are recovering, sir. Do you need help down? Hoots! There you go, buddy. Now for the potatoes, I am gonna cut these somewhat bigger because remember, with this, we're going to be cooking the curry, then cooling it down, then reheating it. So if the pieces end up being too small, they're just going to fall apart. And it may still happen, but we're gonna try to do our best to prevent it by making these not too small. Now that my veg is done, I'm gonna get the potatoes in some water so they don't oxidize on me, and then we can start cutting up the protein, which is just gonna be some chicken thigh. Now the reason why I'm opting in for chicken thigh is because they do hold up much better to being cooked, cooled, and reheated versus something like chicken breast. Chicken breast is still a fine option if you prefer that, but just keep in mind it might be a little more dry than chicken thigh once you've heated it and cooled it a couple of times. Gandalf, with the jumping again, sir. I'm just cutting these into like nice 1.5 inch to 2 inch chunks of chicken. Again, don't have these be too small, otherwise they kind of get lost in the sauce, like quite literally lost in the sauce. Once all the chicken's cut, I'm just gonna throw this back into my bowl so I can give it a little bit of a seasoning before we start cooking it. Gonna hit this with just a bit of salt and some white ground pepper. You can also use black pepper if you have that too. Give this a nice mix, make sure all the seasoning is well incorporated with the chicken. That cat, man, he's just gonna cause me a heart attack, I swear. Now that all of our ingredients are ready, let's start making the curry. For the curry, I'm gonna be cooking everything in one pot, but it would also be super easy to make the roux first in a separate pot, set that to the side so you don't have to clean this again. But for most of us who don't want to use 2 pots, just do it this way. I'm putting about 1/2 stick or about 4 tablespoons of butter into my pot first. Once the butter is mostly melted, I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of my curry powder. This is a Madras curry powder that I picked up from my local Asian grocery store. But you can also make your own curry spice if you have all the seasonings. I'm doing this because for meal prep, honestly, this is the easiest way to do it. Or just use golden curry. Golden curry is great. I'm also gonna add in just a touch more salt to this, but we'll probably have to season this as we go. Give this a nice mix, kind of cook the curry spice in the butter. Not too long, you don't want this to scorch or anything. Once it starts smelling nice and toasty, which takes about 30 seconds, this is where I'm gonna turn the heat down and add in about 4 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. This is going to be our curry roux, and admittedly, you can make this 2, 3, 4 days ahead of time, a week ahead of time. It holds up really, really well in the fridge. I'm just gonna cook this for a couple of minutes until the flour has absorbed all of the butter and spices. This is what my roux looks like. I know it looks a little dry, but that's okay for this application. We didn't want too much butter in this. Take my roux and place it into the same pot that I had the flour in because we're gonna be using it right away, so you don't need to really rinse anything out. Gandalf, don't try to get in there, sir. He's so mad that the clamp is on there. Now with my roux done, we're gonna sear off the chicken. I set my pan back to high and I'm gonna add in a big old glug of olive oil. You can use a neutral oil, a peanut oil, really any kind of oil you want. Gandalf, here you go. Once the oil's nice and hot, I'm just gonna start adding in my chicken. I'm probably gonna have to do this in batches because I don't wanna overcrowd this, but remember, we are meal prepping, so you kinda have to do it this way unless you have a very, very big pan to work with, which I very much don't. This is about as much color as I want on my chicken. I'm not trying to develop, because this is skinless. If you had skin on chicken, then you probably wanna go longer. That's just a personal choice for me. I'm gonna do the same exact thing for this second batch. Now, once there's just a little bit of color on this second batch, I'm gonna take the first batch and actually just put it straight back in. This might be a little bit too small, but we're just gonna roll with it. I'm gonna add my carrots to this, then add my potato. Oh my God, I made so much. Some of my onions, and then realize that this pan isn't gonna work. See, here's the problem with my setup. You can see everything I'm doing because of this pan, but this pan isn't working out. So I'm gonna get the big boy, and we'll make a big old pot of curry. Now there's a whole bunch of fond in this pan, so I'm gonna remove that while this is going. Now with everything in our pot, this is where we add the chicken stock. You can also use water, but I highly recommend using chicken stock. I'm actually not trying to cover it with chicken stock because some of the vegetables will leach water back into it. So it's okay if it's barely just covering the top of this. Here's all my fond that we made earlier. That's just pure flavor, so don't leave that out if you made the mistake of not using the big enough pot, okay? Now to throw a lid on it and let this come up to a nice boil, reduce it to a simmer, and let everything get nice and tender before we add our roux. Now this curry has been simmering for about 30 minutes and it's ready to get the roux injected into it, and I'm excited for this. I might eat some for lunch and then freeze the rest. Now to make this really, really easy and to make sure the curry incorporates correctly, I'm gonna take some of this liquid out of here, and admittedly, you know, if I didn't put the curry in here, it smells so good as like a nice chicken and vegetable soup. Oh my God, I would just eat it like this. I'm gonna turn this off for just a minute so the vegetables don't continue to cook and turn into mush, but I've taken some of my liquid and then we're gonna take all of our curry and put it into here. I should say our curry roux. Now I'm gonna mix this. It's gonna get very, very thick, but this will help it kind of get more liquid in a way, so this way you're not just dumping chunks of curry into the soup, because then it won't actually incorporate properly. That's how quickly that comes together. Look at how nice and thick this is. Now crank this all the way back up, take the curry and dump it straight into the rest of that stock. Now, because it's liquid going into liquid, it's going to incorporate so much better than if we just took our dried roux and put it straight in. I am using a spatula here instead of the whisk because the whisk will start actually breaking down the veg, so don't use the whisk to mix the main part of your curry. Now, this does have to come up to a boil because typically a flour-based roux does have to come to the boil to activate, so make sure you just boil it again for a couple of minutes and it should be ready. Give this another taste. Oh, the consistency looks pretty spot on, which is nice. That's nice. Make sure you do season it again if you need to, but that's good. I forgot how spicy that curry powder was. Woo! That's good. I'm gonna be cooling it down in this giant hotel pan, but if you don't have one, you can let it cool down in here, but it's best to get this as cold as possible, as quickly as possible, because of the potatoes and the vegetables. Alternatively, you can also just use a sheet tray. This is also a silly amount of curry, so you probably, maybe cut this recipe in half, okay? Let's go, curry time. So much, oh my God, this is basically, this is basically for a hotel at this point. Now I'm gonna cool this down and load it into my silicone molds. Now I'm only gonna load up one of my silicone molds with curry because I am also gonna have to load up the gyudon, so this is quickly turning into a 2, maybe 3-day project. I still think that that's okay because maybe it's one thing you make per evening, and then you just kind of rotate them through that. I know a lot of people don't even have that kind of time, but you also don't realistically have to make 6 things at a time. Because these go in the freezer, you know, you make them once a week or whatever the case may be, and then you can just kind of pick and choose and have some stuff in there for a couple of months, which is pretty promising. Also, maybe don't fill these up all the way. It's a little bit high, but this will expand in the freezer because liquid expands when it's frozen. So I think they're still pretty high. Now this is going to go in the freezer until tomorrow. We'll see what it looks like. And after freezing overnight, this is what my chicken curry now looks like. Pretty thick. They look pretty decent in there. I have a little bit of crystals here, which means I probably didn't cool it down enough before putting it in here and putting it in the freezer, so just keep that in mind. I just want to take these bad boys out. These should theoretically just slide straight out. I mean, that's pretty cool looking. Look at that Lego brick of chicken curry ready to go. Now, we could take this and we could just pop it in the microwave. So we're gonna be taste testing this with everything else later. Now, the next recipe I'm kind of hesitant on because I've never frozen thinly sliced beef that we're gonna be using. And the sauce I need is actually the teriyaki sauce from Cooking with Chaos. This is the perfect time to tell you about Cooking with Chaos, my brand new infinite recipe card system. And when I mean infinite, there's a lot of recipes in this small box of cards. Every box comes with 20 proteins, which are red, 20 sauces, which are blue, and 20 sides, which are green. You get all the ingredients on the front and all of the directions on the back, so that way everything is self-contained on each recipe card. But the idea is basically 1, 2, 3. You pick a protein, a sauce, and a side, and combine them together to make a meal that you think you're going to enjoy. After leaving the industry professionally, I've realized that I don't care how people really want to eat. If you want to eat a specific way and you think that's going to be delicious, please go for it. That way you can pick what you truly want for dinner without me telling you how to eat. Let's say you really want potatoes, but you don't want these. You can just make the potato pancakes instead to go along with your pork and your gochujang sauce. This is how I meal prep, and I absolutely love using Cooking with Chaos, so that way I can have different meals every single week. I'll typically make 2 to 3 proteins, 2 to 3 sauces, and like 4 to 6 sides, and load them all up in the fridge, so this way I can just grab what I want and kind of combine it into a rice bowl, a sandwich, a wrap, or just eat it as is. And if you really don't want to pick what to make for dinner, don't worry, I got you. Each card has a corresponding number in the top right corner, and that number corresponds with a 20-sided dice. Yes, I keep one on me at all times. This way you could just roll the dice and let chaos decide what you're going to be having for dinner. Roll a d20 for a protein, sauce, and a side and see what the combos come up with. People in our community have already been doing this, and they seem to come up with some insane combinations I haven't tried yet. Since there are over 8,000 combinations, there's no way you're going to have the same thing as someone else. So being involved with the community is a fun way to see what people are coming up with. But not only that, I have the Rice Bowl expansion pack coming out in 2026 that's going to add another set of cards that you can add to this. That means there's definitely going to be over 9,000 different combinations in Cooking with Chaos. This has been my passion project, and honestly, this helps me sustain everything that we do here on the channel. If you want to pick one up, I'm going to leave a QR code on screen right over here, or I'll leave a link in the description below where you can also find the recipes for this video. Honestly, it feels really cool to kind of also sponsor myself in a way, so that's a fun thing. But now it's time to make this gyudon. Now, Japanese gyudon doesn't even really need to be meal prepped because it doesn't take a lot of time to make if you just have the ingredients laying around. So I'm gonna be making my teriyaki sauce first. This is 1 cup of cooking sake, and this makes quite a bit, but we're also making quite a bit of gyudon. 1.5 cups of soy sauce. 1 cup of mirin. This is a style of Japanese cooking wine. And about 2 tablespoons of sugar from my good old sugar bag. I'm just gonna gently stir this together because it doesn't need too much help. Then I'm gonna bring my pot back over here. I'm gonna take this mixture and put it straight into my pot. Realistically, all I'm doing is trying to dissolve the sugar into the liquids first. Now, after a minute or 2, that sugar is pretty much dissolved. And because I don't need all of this for my gyudon, I'm actually going to put this back into here and just kind of feel out how much I need. Now, gyudon couldn't be easier to make. I'm gonna add some of this liquid straight into here, probably starting with about 1.5 cups of teriyaki sauce. Then I'm taking those sliced onions. This is the leftover onions that I had from what we had cut up earlier. Add all that in there. The amount of liquid that I want is just enough to where it doesn't come up over the onions. Otherwise, you're gonna have too much teriyaki sauce. I'm only cooking these onions for a couple of minutes to where they get just slightly tender. You still want them to have a little bit of a bite to them. This is kind of what I want my onion to look like. Still pretty firm, but tender enough to eat. With gyudon, I do like to make sure we use the thinly sliced beef. This isn't the best beef, but it was also very cheap and it was on sale at my local grocery store. If you can't find thinly sliced beef, what I would recommend is getting a nice steak, partially freezing it for just a couple of hours and slicing it yourself. This stuff is pretty shredded up though, so we'll see if this even works. Trying to be cheap here, you know? I'm actually able to get almost all of this in here. I think this is gonna be okay. It's not a huge amount. Not like our curry. Our curry is gonna last us 2 months. Now, because this beef is so thin, it only cooks for a couple of minutes. This is why I'm hesitant with trying gyudon for this freezer meal recipe. I wanna see if it works though. If it works, that's awesome. If not, maybe I'll just keep some frozen beef in the freezer along with teriyaki sauce because it lasts forever and an onion laying around. This actually reminds me of Yoshinoya over in Japan. The beef almost looks very, very similar to that. So I wonder if they're also using cheaper cuts of meat because honestly, you can get Yoshinoya for like $2 or $3. It's kind of nuts. And this is done. We just cool it down and let's load it up. Go ahead and put this on my sheet tray to get it nice and cold very, very quickly. If you don't have a sheet tray, you can just put this on a very large plate, but I do like to remove it from my pan so I can use it for other things. Now to cool this down and load it up. Now the silicone molds that I have are 1 cup silicone molds. So what I'm actually going to do first is fill each one about 3/4 of the way up with some beef. What I'm really curious of though is how much each of these portions actually might weigh. So I'm gonna fill up this last one and see what it comes out to. And at about 3/4 of a cup, it's about 4 ounces of cooked beef. Admittedly, that's not a tremendous amount of protein, but that's very much gonna be up to each individual, and I am able to top this off. So I think you're gonna get closer to about 5 ounces of beef per portion. Actually, I take that back. There's a little bit of onion in there, so you're probably still closer to maybe 4 to 4.5 max ounces per portion. Now to make life easy, I'm gonna take the rest of this juice and put it in the rest of this little bit of teriyaki that I have so I can pour it into these molds. From what I've seen with any of these molds, having the liquid in this does really, really help. This way when you go to heat them back up in the microwave or whatever else, they're not completely dry. But also with something like gyudon, you don't want too much liquid because then it saturates the rice. So there's this fine line we have to play. Now this bad boy goes in the freezer until it's frozen solid, maybe overnight. More than likely overnight. This is what the gyudon looks like. This is the one that kind of threw me off the most with trying to freeze. I mean, it looks like it froze fine for the most part. Let's see how they come out of these molds. This should give, oh, that looks actually pretty solid. Not a ton of liquid, so it might fall apart a little bit here, but what that also means is that this will heat up faster than something like the curry because the curry is so solid with liquid. That actually looks kind of freaking cool. Oh, I'm actually really excited about this now. I wonder how this one is gonna heat up too. That's always the question. They look great. They look awesome for meal prep and social media, but the real question is how does it taste when you go through all of this and then reheat it? Now I'm actually really excited for the rice, especially because the rice bowl pack is going to feature quite a few of them for cooking with chaos. And the rice that I'm making today is going to be a mushroom rice, and the other one is one of my secret favorites. It's kind of based on a recipe I had in Japan. It's an eel sauce onion rice. I know it sounds really strange, but it's gonna be so good. But the first one we have to make is a mushroom rice. And if you don't have shiitakes, you can do something like creminis, which are also pretty solid. You can also use dried mushrooms, which carry a ton of flavor. Because these are also pretty long, and it's gonna be a little difficult to eat that on a fork, I'm just gonna go ahead and give it a single chop down the center to kind of cut them in half, and that's it. This is gonna be made in a rice cooker, so this way if you are prepping it at home, you can just kind of walk away. I have 2 cups of washed short grain style rice. This is all just going right into here. Mushrooms going right into the pot. This rice is also going to get 2 cloves of crushed garlic, along with about 2 to 3 tablespoons of our minced onions that we had from earlier. And finally, 3 tablespoons of soy sauce just to give it a little bit more flavor and to season the rice. I'm gonna give this a stir to make sure everything is well incorporated. I found that if I throw in seasonings straight into the pot and don't stir it, we end up having like pockets of rice that are seasoned in a really strange way, and it's not really seasoned all the way throughout. Now this guy just goes into the rice steamer for about an hour and it's ready. Now my mushroom rice is done cooking. You can see what the inside of this looks like now. Oh, that's so hot, don't grab this. I'm gonna just go ahead and fold everything together nice and gently, and look at the color on this rice. It's glistening, it's beautiful, it's earthy, it smells fantastic. Oh God, I'm so excited for this rice. But ideally, you wanna cool down the rice before you put it into the cubes. The reason is if you put the hot rice as a cube into there, it's going to retain a lot of heat, causing the rice to get kind of mushy. So instead, we're gonna spread this out and let this cool down as quickly as possible. And once this is cool, I can load it into my cubes. My mushroom rice is completely cold now. I actually was able to pop it in the fridge so it would cool down pretty quickly. And now I'm just gonna load it into 2 of these so I have room for the other rice over here. Get a bunch of this and just start loading it up. I also wanna make sure I'm not necessarily jamming this in there, because then you'll smush the rice, and then when you go to reheat it, you'll end up having an actual brick of rice because you pressed it together. Don't hurt the rice, you know, just gently coerce it into the crevasses of these molds. Admittedly though, this is pretty great for portion control. You technically get a cup of cooked rice with some mushrooms, so you know more or less exactly what you're eating. Like, that's a huge side benefit of doing it this way. Now with the mushroom rice ready, we just have to load the other side with our second rice before freezing this. Now admittedly, the second rice that I'm making, which is the onion soy rice, is something that I picked up from an anime called Food Wars, and I kind of tweaked it to be my own thing. So I'm taking 2 cups of rice and I'm putting it straight into the rice steamer. This is gonna get nothing added to it until later. The second part of this recipe is so good and so deceptively simple. I'm gonna start with about 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of oil straight into my pan first. Next, I'm gonna take the rest of those diced onions that I have. This is almost 2 cups of onions, and I'm gonna start caramelizing them in this pan. It's not gonna be quite a true caramelization. Like, we're not going far enough for it to be something for like a French onion soup, but enough to start releasing a lot of the sugars. And what's great about this onion sauce is you can make a good sized batch of it and just keep it in the fridge and add it to anything. Add it to grilled cheese, add it to another soup. Just eat it with a spoon. I've been cooking this at like a medium-ish heat for about 7 or 8 minutes now. I didn't have to go the full 15, and that's kind of what I want these to look like. You don't want them too soft, not too golden. We're not trying to fully caramelize them because we're adding more stuff. The first stuff is teriyaki sauce. This is the same teriyaki sauce I made earlier for the gyudon. That's why I made so much of it. You know, we're trying to meal prep for ourselves, so we have to consider how we're going to actually be using some of the ingredients multiple times, like I mentioned. Making a good portion of the teriyaki sauce is really important here. That's about 1 cup of teriyaki sauce. But now to this, I'm adding in another 2 tablespoons of sugar out of my endless bag of sugar. This is actually going to thicken the sauce tremendously and help balance the sweetness with the saltiness. But now this is going to come down to a medium-low heat, and we're gonna simmer this until it's reduced by at least half and gets fairly thick. All right, I'll see you then. Now this is what my onions and teriyaki sauce start to look like. This beautiful, rich, thick glaze of onions and flavor. This is so good. Like, we have to cool this down anyways, but if you cool this down and put it in the fridge, you can just spread this over toast and make like a grilled cheese with it. Oh my God, it's so good. But we're gonna use this for the rice once the rice is ready. Now my regular steamed rice is ready to be mixed with the soy and the onions. This is gonna be so good. I'm just gonna take all of this beautiful onion glaze. Look at what it looks like as it's cooled down. It's just so jammy and rich. Throw a dab of butter in this. Oh my God. Now this is going to go straight on top of the rice. Now I'm gonna gently fold this into the rice, trying not to break it up too much or try to get it too mushy, right? It's something you don't wanna do with rice. You can make a ton of that onion and soy teriyaki mixture and just keep it in the fridge. So that way, whenever you want this, you can just take a few spoonfuls and just put it on top of your rice and you're pretty much there. Now once it's all mixed together, again, I'm gonna put this onto a sheet tray and get this nice and spread out so it cools relatively quickly. I have to have some of this. That is so good. I'm excited. Okay, cool this down and freeze it. We're gonna see what this looks like once I pop them out of the molds. One of my favorite vegetables to just have in the freezer is shelled edamame or shelled soybeans because they're so easy to prep, but they have a ton of flavor by using two other ingredients, butter and white miso. First things first, I'm just gonna microwave these to heat them up. While those are heating up in the microwave, I'm just gonna melt down about half a stick of butter. Once this butter is pretty much melted, I'm gonna take about 2 tablespoons of white miso and start toasting it in the butter. I'm telling you, butter and miso go so well together. Now I actually have my heat off because the butter is starting to brown, which is exactly what I want. Because now we're gonna be having brown butter miso sauce to go with that edamame. Oh, the nuttiness from both of these is just incredible. Now I'm gonna take my 2 microwave bags of edamame and just dump these straight in to coat them. These bags of edamame were like $1.50 each. So this is so good for meal prep. Now I'm just gonna toss this all together with the heat off. You can see how the butter and the miso have started to like glaze the edamame. Oh God, you know, we're gonna eat some of this right now. I can't help myself. This smells incredible. I could eat this whole thing right now. Oh my God, the nuttiness, the saltiness, everything comes together so well. I'm telling you, man, buttered miso. It is so good and so easy to make. Oh, one more. Oh yeah. That's the recipe. Now I'm gonna fill 2 of these right now with some of our buttered miso edamame. And then the other 2 slots, I'm actually gonna fill with bok choy, which I'm gonna make in just a second. I'm gonna set these to the side so we can finish that bok choy. The second vegetable is gonna be some garlic bok choy. I like using regular bok choy versus baby bok choy in this application, just because I feel like the thicker stems of regular bok choy will freeze a little bit better than baby bok choy. This recipe does call for baby bok choy if you're making it fresh, but since we're gonna be freezing it, this might be the better option, so I'm really testing it here. One thing with bok choy though is you wanna remove the leaves, and we're gonna cook those separately from the stems. The stems do need more time to cook than the leaves. The leaves actually cook very quickly, so if you kind of just cook everything together, you're gonna get super soggy, soft leaves, and then maybe not cooked stems. I'm gonna slice this into possibly bite-sized pieces because I'm not quite sure how this is going to freeze. This is about the size that I'm looking for my bok choy. I'm gonna place this into a giant pot and just get it washed up. Now with my bok choy washed, I'm just gonna remove it from the liquid and put it into another bowl so I can rinse out these leaves too. This is done. Let's give these a quick chop. I guess we'll kind of chop them a little bit smaller as well, similar to like how we're doing the mushrooms for the mushroom rice. Get these all nice and washed. And I'm just gonna leave the leaves in the water until I need them. The bok choy is also super easy to make. I'm gonna add just about 1.5-ish tablespoons of oil to my pan. I'm only heating up the oil for about a minute before I add in about 4 cloves of crushed garlic. The reason why I'm adding in when the oil is still a little bit cold is because I actually don't wanna cook the garlic too much. Once the oil starts to sizzle with the garlic in there, I'm gonna take some Chinese chili flake. I'm gonna sprinkle in maybe about a tablespoon of this in here as well. Give this a nice mix, get those 2 incorporated. This cooks very quickly and you really don't wanna start smoking it, so I'm only cooking this for about a minute. And then I'm gonna add in my bok choy, which is a little wet, and that's fine because it'll deglaze the bottom of the pan and prevent it from burning. Give this a quick toss, make sure all of those spices are now on the bok choy, or at least try to be. Now the bok choy, I'm gonna add about 1 cup of chicken stock to help braise it. Now before I throw a lid on this, I'm gonna also season this with a decent pinch of salt, and we might have to re-season this later. Give this a nice stir. Pop the lid on it and let this steam until that bok choy is tender. After about 6 to 7 or so minutes, this bok choy should be pretty tender. Give this a quick taste. Yeah, oh, hot. Oh, why do I always do that? Does need a little more salt. And And then I'm gonna add in all of my bok choy leaves now. Now I'm just gonna mix this together, making sure that the leaves kind of get to the bottom so they're in some of that liquid. But this really doesn't need much time. So I'm gonna continue cooking this for another couple of minutes with the lid off. Now you can see after maybe a minute or two, the leaves start to wilt very, very quickly. This is why you don't cook everything together at once. Last thing is a dash of white pepper and about a tablespoon of sesame oil. Now this is ready to load straight into the cubes. I'm gonna take out some of the bok choy with the leaves and put it into each one. This way they're nice and full. You'll get a full cup of vegetables with each of these. That's pretty fantastic. And then I'm gonna take some of the liquid and add it as well, because what I noticed with making a few of these is that if you have the liquid there, it kind of holds everything together when it's frozen. And that way when we reheat it, it might not be as dry. Now I have my edamame and my bok choy. I'm gonna let this cool down completely and then pop it in the freezer and get these into our Lego bricks. Here's a nice spread of our freezer cubes, which admittedly I think looks really cool. Here's our mushroom rice, here's the onion and soy rice, this is the miso and butter edamame, this is the bok choy, here's the gyudon, which again, I'm kind of hesitant about, and then the chicken curry, which is right here. Aesthetically, looks really cool, and it doesn't take up too much room in the freezer, but I want to talk about my thoughts of the freezer meal prep like this towards the end, because I do think this is a great tool in certain ways. Now, let's jump into heating some of this stuff up. But I'm gonna be taking some notes from Cooking with Chaos by using a small D6 or a 6-sided die. Remember, Cooking with Chaos allows you to mix and match the cards to make brand new meals, but there's also a 20-sided die mechanic right in the corner. So this way, if you really don't know what to make for dinner, you can roll the included 20-sided die and just make whatever the cards tell you to make because of that dice roll. I love playing around with flavors like this, and this is how I cooked professionally in a restaurant. Now here's the real world scenario. I literally just left the gym. Yes, I worked out in this exact outfit, and I really want to eat. And I'm gonna roll for each of my meals. We're gonna start with the proteins. Gyudon is odd, curry is even. As simple as that. Boop. We rolled a 3. Curry is our first protein. Now I'm gonna roll evens for the miso edamame and odds for the bok choy. Bam, what'd we get? Ooh, we got evens. So we're gonna go with the miso edamame. I had to think there for a second. This could be interesting. We'll see how these flavors, these are two very powerful flavors. Then we're gonna roll for the rice. Evens for the mushroom rice, odds for the onion and soy. Let's go. We have evens with the 2, so that's gonna be the mushroom rice. That means this is my lunch combination for today. I'm also going to taste test these 3 right after, so we'll see how these play around together as well. Would I normally eat 2 bowls of food? No. But for you, I'm going to. Now, when I first started this project, I had thought of actually using a sous vide machine to heat these up, but most people don't have one and they can be very expensive, whereas maybe your apartment or your home does come with a microwave. So we're only gonna be using a microwave. Now I know watching Mikey G's video, he had heated everything up on the same plate, but everything heats up very differently. So to give this its best shot flavor-wise, I'm gonna heat up things separately. We could also potentially cut these in half, but this is just going in a bowl and it's going in the microwave for about 5 or 6 minutes on like a medium power, so it needs some time. So this has been in the microwave for 5 minutes at like a medium power setting and it's still kind of frozen. Let's see if I can break this up a little bit. Okay, it does start to break up, but there's still frozen bits in the middle. So maybe just another couple of minutes. But what does kind of suck is that realistically in 10 or so minutes of heating all this up, maybe 15 minutes, probably could have just made this from scratch depending on your skill level. We'll see. I'm gonna throw this back in. I really don't know what to do with the food just heating up, so I'm just kind of waiting, getting my steps in, I guess. Maybe it would have been better to heat it up in a pot. I'm not quite sure. Okay, we have about 7 minutes to heat up our curry. You know, it's nice and it's hot and it's bubbly and it was hit with a bunch of microwave action for about 7 minutes because we still need to heat up these 2. Now, I'm gonna probably heat up both of these at the same time. Just see what happens. We're gonna do the same thing, like kind of a low power setting for a couple of minutes first and see what it looks like. I'm gonna try to keep this kind of warm while the other stuff is heating up. Okay, it's been about 7 minutes in the microwave for the rice and the miso butter edamame at the same kind of like medium-ish. Oh, is it still frozen in the middle? Hold on, it felt a little, it's still cold. All right, another minute and a half at full power. Let's see if this actually heated up because the bowl feels like it's gonna shatter. Are the beans hot in the middle? The rice is hot. Okay, we're hot. after 9 minutes, is my curry still hot? My curry's still warm because I covered it. Here we go. This is all gonna go right on top like one big fiesta bowl. Now keep in mind, this bowl of food does look pretty substantial. Like, it's a lot of food. It also took about 15 minutes to heat up in the microwave, which feels weird because you're microwaving food for 15 minutes total, but you could potentially heat some of these elements up, and I'll tell you about my thoughts on that in a second. Gandalf, you cannot have this. This is very hot. And no. Bad Gandalf. No curry chicken for you. Let's give this a taste. The bowl is extremely hot. That's what that looks like. It looks like a great bite of food, admittedly. Cheers. The flavors are great. I don't feel like anything was impacted. I don't feel like the texture of the food was impacted too much from freezing and reheating. This is pretty damn good. No, Gandalf, you can't have this, mine. The edamame still have a nice amount of body to them. They're not over steamed or overcooked. The rice itself still is structurally intact. It's not super mushy, which is really, really nice, especially for microwave rice. Gandalf, don't you jump up on that fridge. This cat, dude. And I think the curry reheated the best of all three. Admittedly though, I think I would probably just make like 8 bricks of the curry, but then the rice and the edamame, I would actually just keep in the fridge for 5 or 6 days, because those two I can heat up relatively easily and have those with other proteins, so that's something to keep in mind. Now, I'm gonna try the gyudon next. These I did keep in the freezer this whole 15 or 20 minutes I've been heating up the other food, so that way these are still truly frozen. Now I'm gonna treat this exactly the same way. I'm gonna take the veg, which is the bok choy, and the rice, which is the onion soy rice, this is one of my favorites. Literally, I could eat this by the fistful. And I'm gonna put this into my bowl, and we're gonna go into the microwave because I don't think the gyudon will take that long to heat up. Okay guys, hear me out. This is a huge L on my part. Look at all of the liquid that's in the bok choy. That's because we added more broth to it, which is fantastic. But now it's gonna make my rice soggy. So I'm gonna separate these two out. This has been in the microwave for about 8 minutes at 8 power, and it's not quite thawed out yet, but I really don't want super soggy rice. Like, that's not something I really want. Lucian, you're going crazy, sir. I actually wonder if my rice is heated up. No, it's still kind of frozen. So I'm gonna finish heating up the bok choy first, and then we'll just put them at the same time. Now it's been another couple of minutes, a total of about 9 minutes so far for these two. The rice is nice and hot, and luckily it's not mushy from all of the excess liquid. So if you are heating this up, pay attention to that aspect of it, because you maybe don't want to heat up 2 things in the same bowl. We're gonna grab the bok choy. It's nice and hot. Oh, it's still really good. And now our bok choy is nice and warm too, but I'm gonna have to assemble this in a different way. Now I have 3 bowls, one with the rice, one with the bok choy, and one with the gyudon. And because this gyudon's been sitting out for about 9 minutes or maybe a little bit more, I can now just kind of break it up because it's kind of defrosted. So that's one perk of microwaving things for 9 to 10 minutes. Now I'm just gonna heat this up. Let's see what happens. Now luckily the gyudon only really took about 3 minutes to heat up, and it's nice and warm, and probably because it's super thin meat and it wasn't a ton going on. But gyudon also doesn't take a long time to make either way. So now I'm gonna assemble a small bowl of gyudon using the onion and soy rice on the bottom. This is gonna have so much flavor here. A little bit of this garlic and chili bok choy, and then some of the gyudon right on top. I'm trying not to bring a lot of the liquid in here because it's gonna make everything super soggy, but you do need the liquid to freeze the foods because they freeze better with more liquid. This is what my next bowl of food looks like according to the dice rolls. Let's see how this tastes, because it took about 12 minutes to heat up. Cheers. I mean, it held up way better than I expected it to. The bok choy does have texture to it. It's still really nice. The rice isn't mushy. The gyudon is still tender, even though they're the cheaper cuts of meat. That's just a great bowl of food. That's really good. But now I kind of want to give my thoughts behind this whole system. This is the rest of the food that I have, all in baggies and cubed up and ready to go. But when I look at this as a whole, for someone who might be doing this at home, they're gonna spend their day doing all of this so that way they have food throughout the week. I don't think it's a good method unless you pick 1, maybe 2 items to prep. I actually wouldn't recommend doing like the gyudon, the miso edamame, and the curry and everything. I think instead you pick 1 item. it makes prep way easier. So in my case, I really love the chicken curry. I would probably batch out enough for 8 cubes of chicken curry plus some more for that week. And then that way I just have chicken curry in the freezer as a go-to, so if I don't have a lot of time. And then I would add that to some other fresh steamed or roasted vegetables, and maybe just some plain white rice that I have in the rice cooker. Because I only had 2 molds, this process took almost 3 days to film and show you guys. And I do this full-time, so I don't think a lot of people who are maybe coming home from work are going to want to do that. So instead, use this as a tool to your meal prep arsenal. Pick one item you want to make bulk prep of, freeze that item, and then kind of keep it rolling. So that way, maybe one Sunday at the beginning of the month, you make chicken curry and you make maybe 12 of these things and you throw them in the freezer. Personally, I'm still stuck on making about 5 days worth of food and just keeping it in the fridge, and that way I can eat that throughout the week. To each their own, and I won't tell you how to eat, so I want you to tell me your favorite methods of meal preps in the comments down below, because I want to hear what you guys are doing. Hearing what you have to say opens my mind up way more, and maybe there's something that I missed here, and I love learning, so maybe we can learn from each other. Head over to cookingwithchaos.gg at the links down below, or with the shop over here on YouTube right below this video, or with the QR code on screen to pick up my infinite recipe card system to help you make meal prep like this. That way you can get excited about making a meal at home once again. My name is Paul, and remember, keep playing with your food.